They say when one door closes, another opens. But I never expected the new door to lead me into a world of whispered desires, unspoken passions, and a connection that set my soul on fire. I was just a woman trying to find herself again, until he walked into my life. And nothing has been the same since. Please like, share, and comment your thoughts in comments section. My name is Eliza Monroe. I used to think life followed one straight path. Study hard, marry the man you love, settle down, and build a world together. But that was before I stood in front of the courthouse, holding divorce papers, with the sound of silence heavier than my heartbeat. When James left me, it didn't feel real. A 10-year marriage, erased. He didn't cheat. He didn't yell. He simply stopped seeing me. He said he was lost and needed space, as if our life together was a cramped room with no air. I tried to understand, to forgive, to fix, until I realized I was the only one trying. So I left. I moved back into the small beachside apartment my aunt had left me years ago. The sea was my only companion, and its voice was the only one that didn't ask questions. Every morning I stood on the balcony in my soft robe, feeling the warm breeze brush against my skin like a lover I never had. I let the sun kiss parts of me James never noticed. My shoulders, my lower back, my neck. It was like waking up for the first time in years. One afternoon, while sipping cold lemonade and flipping through a half-read novel, I heard someone call out, "Ma'am." His voice was rich and deep, coated with southern charm. I looked down from the balcony and saw him. A man in his early 30s, tanned skin, short dark hair, wearing a work vest over his gray t-shirt. His jeans were slightly dusty from paint, and his eyes had that shade of green you only find in rare stones or rainy forests. "I'm Sawyer," he said. "From the maintenance crew. Looks like the water heater unit's scheduled for a check." I let him in. It was supposed to be a routine visit, 10 minutes tops. But 10 minutes turned into 30. He asked me questions not about my heater but about me. My job, my writing, the way I liked my coffee. No man had asked about those things in years. When he left, he smiled. "You ever need anything fixed, just call the office." I didn't wait for something to break. The next morning I walked past the complex office and dropped off a note. "Water pressure feels off. Can someone check it?" He came. This time it wasn't just a conversation. He told me about his grandmother, his 2 rescue dogs, and how he built furniture in his garage. His hands were rough and strong, the kind of hands that make you feel safe just by brushing yours. I caught myself laughing more than I had in months. My robe felt thinner that day, the wind a little more daring. From then on he came often. Sometimes I asked for little things. Adjust a curtain rod, fix a door handle, help carry a box. But we both knew it wasn't about any of that. It was about the slow burn building between us. It was in the way his fingers accidentally grazed mine when I handed him a glass of iced tea. It was in the way I leaned too close when showing him the broken light switch. And then came the rain. It poured for 2 days straight, trapping me inside. The power flickered out that evening and the temperature dropped just enough to send a chill through my bones. I wrapped myself in a throw and lit a few candles. That's when I heard the knock. Sawyer stood there, drenched, holding a thermos. "Thought you might need some company," he said. I let him in again. We sat on the floor by the candlelight. The rain roared around us, but inside, everything felt still. He poured us both hot chocolate, rich, dark, and sweet. Our knees touched. His shirt clung to his chest, showing every sculpted line. I was aware of every breath I took, every flicker of the candle that made his eyes look like emeralds caught in flame. I laughed at one of his jokes and leaned back on my hands. He stared at me for a moment longer than necessary, then reached to tuck a strand of damp hair behind my ear. My breath caught. He hesitated, reading my eyes like a map. That moment didn't lead to anything graphic. No sudden kisses. No dramatic rush. Just a silent storm between us. Unspoken, warm, full of promise. He stayed that night. On the couch, of course. But in the morning, as sunlight poured in through the blinds and the rain finally stopped, I found him making breakfast shirtless in the kitchen. The smell of eggs and coffee filled the air. I stood behind him for a long second, appreciating the moment. When he turned and saw me, I swear there was something in his gaze. Something more than gratitude. A gentle hunger, an emotional pull, not for my body, but for all the parts of me James had forgotten. We didn't talk about what was happening. We didn't need to. Something was opening. Slowly, beautifully. That evening I stood on the balcony again wearing my favorite robe. The wind kissed my skin. Down below Sawyer looked up and smiled. And in that second I knew, when one door closed, others had quietly begun to open. And they were wide open now. The days after the rain felt like a quiet awakening. My little apartment, once a lonely refuge, had turned into a soft, warm place I never wanted to leave. But it wasn't the walls or the sea view or even the breeze that made it feel that way. It was him. Sawyer. The man who used to fix door hinges now lingered long after the job was done. He still knocked like a gentleman and still pretended like he came to check something. But we both knew. We always knew. He'd show up with coffee some mornings wearing that navy blue t-shirt that stretched a little too tightly across his chest, and I'd pretend not to notice. He'd bring over leftovers from his weekend barbecue, and we'd eat off mismatched plates while our knees brushed under the table. I stopped trying to hide the way I smiled when he spoke. I stopped trying to act like I wasn't hoping he'd stay just a little longer. And then came the first note. It was folded neatly, slipped under my front door, written in pen on plain white paper. No name. Just 7 words. You're blooming again. I can see it. I held it in my hands for a long time. It wasn't Sawyer's handwriting. I knew that. His writing was big and bold and messy. This was careful, delicate. Like someone had taken their time with every curve. The next day I found flowers in a mason jar outside my door. Wild sunflowers, fresh and full of life. My heart pounded. For a second I wondered if James had come back. But that idea disappeared as fast as it came. He was in Seattle now. Some startup. Some new life. I hadn't heard from him in months. Sawyer came by later that evening, carrying a jar of homemade chili. "You okay?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," I said, but my voice didn't sound convincing, not even to myself. He tilted his head. "You sure?" I didn't answer. Instead I stepped back, letting him in. The soft rhythm between us didn't change. We ate. We talked. But I could feel the shift in his gaze every time I looked away. That night I didn't sleep much. Not because I was scared. Because I was excited. Not about the note, but about the feeling I couldn't explain. I was alive again. My skin tingled. My lips itched for something more. I wanted touch. Laughter. Connection. I wanted to run toward the heat I felt around Sawyer, not away from it. 2 days later he invited me over to his place. "Dinner. Nothing fancy," he said. "Just something I want to cook for you." I wore a cream-colored dress that hugged me just enough. My hair was loose. My heart was louder than usual. When I arrived, his small house smelled like garlic and rosemary. The lights were low. A soft jazz record played in the background. "Wine?" he asked. "Only if you're drinking too." We clinked glasses. We didn't stop smiling. He cooked linguine with shrimp, the kind of dish that made you forget the world outside even existed. We sat close, closer than we'd ever been. And when our hands touched over the bread basket, I didn't pull mine away. "You know," he said, voice low, "I'm not great with words. But I've been thinking about you every night." I looked down at our joined hands. "I've been thinking about you too," I whispered. He leaned in slowly, like he was giving me time to pull back. But I didn't. Our lips met, soft, warm, unhurried. The kind of kiss that says I've waited for this. The kind that burns without needing a flame. It didn't go further. Not yet. But it didn't have to. That kiss was a promise. And it lit every part of me I thought had turned cold. After that night something changed. Not just between us but inside me. I started dressing with more care. I painted my lips a deeper red. I walked to the beach barefoot in the mornings, smiling at the sky like it had finally remembered me. But the notes kept coming. Each one folded neatly. "You don't even know how beautiful you are. He doesn't deserve you. Some doors should stay closed forever." That last one made my hands shake. I told Sawyer about them. His jaw clenched. "Want me to talk to the property manager? Maybe check the security cams?" "No," I said softly. "Let's just not give it power." But it was already creeping in. One evening as I sat on the couch wrapped in Sawyer's hoodie, there was a knock on the door. Not his. I opened it and time stopped. James. Looking older, thinner, with tired eyes and a scruffy beard. Eliza, he said. Can I come in? I stood frozen, holding the edge of the door like it was the only thing keeping me upright. I'm not here to cause trouble, he added. I made a mistake. I want to talk. I let him in. But the moment he stepped inside, I knew nothing had changed. He looked around like he still belonged. He asked about the apartment like it was still ours. I've been seeing your photos, he said. You're glowing again. You look like the woman I fell in love with. My eyes stung, but not for him. For myself. For the version of me who used to wait for him to look at me like this. For the version who thought she'd never be seen again. I'm not her anymore, I said quietly. He looked at me wounded. Is it because of him? I didn't answer. Because it didn't matter. This wasn't about Sawyer. It was about me. When James left, he closed a door. But he didn't realize that I was already opening windows, breathing new air. He left me behind, and I found myself. He stayed only 15 minutes. When he left, there were no hugs. No promises. Just a silent understanding that some stories are meant to end. That night I lay on the couch with Sawyer. His hand was on my hip. My head rested against his chest. Neither of us said anything, but I knew he wasn't a rebound. He wasn't a replacement. He was the one I was waiting to meet, even when I didn't know it. When my one door closed, he was the door that opened. And this time I was ready to walk through.